More breaking news from Brighton after the hostage drama that's left 2 people dead. Returning now to Paul Dowsley. Paul, what's happened now?
We understand the gunman was shot during an exchange. Mitch, we understand this wrapped up about 45 minutes ago with a loud series of bangs. The gunman was shot during that exchange and 2 police officers were also shot. We understand they will be okay. So is the body of the gunman inside, the body also of another person in the foyer. But we can now reveal that 7 News received a contact phone call to our newsroom during this siege. We believe, and police in fact believe, that it came from within the building, and we could hear a woman screaming in the background. A male caller told a 7 News employee, "This is for IS. This is for Al-Qaeda." And now we can reveal this because the siege is over. Police are investigating whether it is in fact terror-related. Mitch?
I got told that there was an explosion at around 4 o'clock, and I hung around for a while, and I heard gunshots, about 10 shots, and we got told that it was a hostage situation.
As you would imagine, this is a major investigation, and it's a major scene that we've got here. Terrorism is one line of inquiry in relation to this particular matter. We do have our counter-terrorism command working with our crime department investigators. As I said, though, it's early days, and that's just one line of inquiry.
Britain's Prime Minister says her country needs to do much more to fight Islamic extremism. ISIS claims responsibility for Saturday's attack that killed 7 people. At least 48 others were hurt, including 2 Americans. It was Britain's 3rd terror attack since March.
Metropolitan Police carried out raids in East London's Barking district on Sunday, where an apartment belonging to one of the 3 attackers is located. One of the 12 arrested has been released without charge, but 4 men and 7 women are still being detained under terrorism legislation. The targeted area is still on lockdown as an investigation by the Counter-Terrorism Command continues, and the so-called Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Borough Station has reopened, and both London Bridge, rail and subway stations will reopen at 5 a.m. Monday morning local time.
London, seemingly the same as ever. Busy, bustling, and still a magnet for visitors from all over. But this is a city that is reacting to new threats, as it's done many times before.
This is now the reality for people living in London. These are metal barricades that went in on Westminster Bridge overnight. They're on other bridges as well, but people are now asking questions of the authorities. Should barricades like this have been put in place before? And what did they know about the perpetrators?
Questions that are not being answered at the moment by the London police. But local authorities have told us they're adapting as fast as they can.
We work very closely with the Met and security services. We are constantly assessing the security risk with them and what measures we need to bring in to respond to that security risk. This is an ongoing discussion we have, and when it's necessary, when we think we have to do it, we then work with them to bring in these measures.
This is just the latest atrocity in Europe, where a vehicle's been used to slam into pedestrians since 2016, leaving many dead and injured. And the incidents involving the Christmas market in Berlin, the promenade in Nice, and the 2 bridge attacks in London, the perpetrators were shot after ramming dozens of innocent people. All attackers are believed to have been inspired by radical ideas. And RT correspondent Isa Ali now takes a closer look at how Europe has been failing to tackle what is being called now a repeating problem.
Another week, another terrorist attack. What was once a rarity in Western cities is becoming slowly but surely a regular occurrence. And the same crude tactics which are used in those attacks are being repeated over and over again. And the defiant response to the attacks by officials is by now familiar.
Terrorism will not destroy the Republic, because it is the Republic that will destroy it.
We'll remain united and together. We'll remain fully mobilized to protect our liberty and our way of life.
We are in a new era, and France will have to live with terrorism.
But after the latest attack, it seems a tipping point's been reached.
It is time to say enough is enough.
Tonight, major cities in the U.S. on alert after the attacks in London. The fear, a copycat. In New York City, visible signs of that stepped-up security. NYPD heavy in Times Square. More patrols at airports, bridges, tunnels, and mass transit. Chicago police armed with assault rifles at Saturday night's U2 concert at Soldier Field. In Oakland, Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Police and security working to keep thousands of fans safe. In New York, large sanitation trucks lined up ready to stop vehicles like the one used in the London Bridge attack. These trucks protecting tens of thousands of people for Sunday's Celebrate Israel parade. The concern, homegrown terror. Investigations in all 50 states. The FBI saying 2,000 potential terrorists in the U.S. Half of those may have had contact with terror groups like ISIS. In Times Square, scenes of more police now common after a major terror attack overseas. Across the nation, places where large crowds are gathering, told to remain vigilant.
Emotions were running high in Manchester on Sunday evening as Ariana Grande led a star-studded lineup in a benefit concert for the victims of the recent suicide bomber attack. The event was made all the more poignant in the wake of events in London the night before. But for many who'd been caught up in the bombing, the concert was a healing exercise.
I feel so safe, so safe. Like there's security everywhere and you just feel like there's going to be nothing going on. It just feels so good. So much better.
Everyone was saying you're being silly if you don't go. You know, you've got to go because you said from the start you're going to show that you're not scared. You know, everyone's going to show that they're not scared. So, yeah, so we decided in the end that we had to go. Really, I'm so glad we did.
Despite the circumstances, a celebratory atmosphere prevailed. The show saw performances from big pop acts from both sides of the Atlantic, including Katy Perry, Justin Bieber and Coldplay. Grande, who'd been appearing at the Manchester Arena when the suicide bomber blew himself up, closed the show with a moving solo version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
The story of the Tower of Babel speaks of a time when the entire world was united under one language before being split up again into a babbling mass of different warring cultures, dialects, and diatribes. Could those linguistic limits be bested once more with a Tower of Tech? A few dedicated gadgets have appeared in recent times aiming to do just that. The Ely from Japanese company Logbar is the most promising of these standalone devices. Described as a Wi-Fi-free instant translator for travelers, the remote-shaped gadget has been in development for a few years and will go on sale this summer.
3 attacks in 3 months in England. Meanwhile, in the wake of the London attacks, President Trump is vowing to keep America safe and obliterate terrorism.
This bloodshed must end. This bloodshed will end. As president, I will do what is necessary to prevent this threat from spreading to our shores and work every single day to protect the safety and security of our country, our communities, and our people.
Before speaking with British Prime Minister Theresa May, Mr. Trump's first reactions came on Twitter, where he pointed to the terror attack as a reason to support his court-suspended travel ban on 6 Muslim-majority countries.
I'm appalled and furious that these cowardly terrorists will deliberately target innocent Londoners.
The president also took aim at London Mayor Sadiq Khan for these comments.
Londoners will see an increased police presence today and over the course of the next few days. No reason to be alarmed.
Mr. Trump mocked the attempt to reassure Londoners not to be alarmed by the unusual sight of armed officers.
On Monday morning, the president tweeted, "People, the lawyers in the courts can call it whatever they want, but I am calling it what we need, and what it is, a travel ban." He then followed that up, writing, "The Justice Department should have stayed with the original travel ban, not the watered-down, politically correct version they submitted to Supreme Court." Both Trump's original and modified travel bans on 7 and now 6 majority Muslim states have been blocked by the courts.
We stood separated by a road and 2 lines of police. This was America's political divide on show in Portland. On one side, a gathering to celebrate free speech and President Donald Trump.
I am an adherent to our political traditions where the free airing of ideas is the best antiseptic for absurd ideas.
Surrounding them, outnumbering them, others who claimed this was a meeting of the far right.
I think that when there are, the people who are going to attend that march over there, I think it does not help them to see that there's so many people opposed. because, you know, it should be shameful to be a white supremacist, and I think the more people we have out, the more shameful it would be seen to them.
Most of the afternoon, the protests were loud and peaceful, but as police tried to push back one of the anti-Trump factions, trouble broke out. Punches were thrown, bottles, fireworks and bricks were aimed at the police, who used tear gas.
Well, there was a lot of tense moments in this park and just up the block in the next park when it looked like there might be a full-scale riot between anarchists who were all dressed in black and covering their faces with bandanas and the police. But the Portland PD and all the state and federal cops who were here lining this area did an amazing job showing great restraint. Counter-protesters threw bricks and bottles at police who formed a wall between them and the Trump supporters. Cops deployed flashbangs and pepper spray, eventually moving the anti-fascist group back. Police made 14 arrests. They also confiscated a bunch of potential weapons: knives, bats, sticks, road flares, chains, brass knuckles. But with all that, there were no arrests, no assaults, no injuries, and very little, if any, property damage.
For the number of protests we've seen in Portland in the last 7 months, this was one of the more active, vocal protests. But overall, at the end of the day, things worked out pretty well.
Former Secretary of State John Kerry has slammed President Donald Trump for pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. In an interview with NBC on Sunday, Kerry also compared Mr. Trump's claims about negotiating a different agreement to O.J. Simpson's famous 1995 pledge to find the, quote, real killer behind his ex-wife and her friend, a crime which many still think the former American football star committed. To clarify, Kerry said everybody knows he's not going to do that because he doesn't believe it, adding President Trump would not have pulled out of the Paris deal if he believed climate change was real. Kerry also said that America has ceded global leadership on the issue of global warming.
Vladimir Putin's given an interview to NBC's Megyn Kelly, where he touched upon allegations about Russian interference in the U.S. election.
Putin once again said that he has not yet seen any direct proof behind these allegations, referring to this conversation he had with the former U.S. President Barack Obama, saying that Obama himself was having doubts about all of these allegations. He then went on to say that no interference from any country, big or small, can determine the outcome of an election of a vast and great power such as the U.S. Putin then questioned how the U.S. can accuse Russia when the U.S. itself has been meddling and interfering with the domestic policies and electoral campaigns of countries worldwide. But this didn't stop Megyn Kelly from pressing further on the same topic, as Kelly questioned Putin his relationship with Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn is, of course, Trump's former national security advisor.
I have a much closer relationship with you than I do with Mr. Flynn. I barely ever spoke to him. I said hello, we sat next to each other. Then I said goodbye and left. That sums up my entire acquaintance with Mr. Flynn. If that is all my interaction with him amounted to, whereas you and I have spent an entire day together and Mr. Flynn was fired from his job, you then should be arrested and put in jail.
Kelly then asked Putin about the alleged discussions that took place between Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who is now his senior advisor, and Russia's ambassador to the U.S. Kelly, of course, was referring to the apparent proposal from Kushner to set up a secret communications channel with Russia. Now, Putin denied the allegations, saying that he's simply not interested, adding that if anything outside of a routine meeting that happened between Kushner and the Russian ambassador, he would have gotten reports on it. He then called out the media for once again creating a sensation out of nothing. Here.
I find it amazing that you managed to create such a sensation where there was nothing at all, and then turned it into a tool for fighting the president. You're very resourceful people over there, well done. But probably lives there are quite boring.
India is working on a number of massive infrastructure projects so that it can mobilize tanks and troops to its border. You'd be forgiven for wrongly assuming that this is another chapter in the country's ongoing dispute with Pakistan. Instead, as one retired Indian general put it, we need to be ready in case the Chinese attack.
Welcome to India's longest bridge, a new source of pride for the country's leadership, who've tried for years to build up infrastructure in the region. The Dola Sadia Bridge stretches 9.1 kilometers, connecting Assam and Arunachal Pradesh in the Himalayas. But there's one problem. India's frontier state, is partly claimed by China. And it's not just the bridge's location that sparked concern in Beijing. It's also designed to carry heavy tanks and transport troops. There are plans, too, to upgrade military landing strips, adding to India's fast-growing defenses on the border. India's junior Home Minister recently said, with China getting more and more aggressive, it is time we strengthened our physical infrastructure to defend our territory. The region which China calls South Tibet has been a source of confrontation for years. The latest spat with India erupted last month when the Dalai Lama visited Arunachal Pradesh against Chinese pressure to shun the Tibetan spiritual leader. But tensions have extended beyond the border. In the world of business, China is planning a $50 billion economic corridor in Pakistan, which a UN body has warned might create geopolitical tension with India. India recently banned China from investing in its electric power grids. Add to that a heated space race between the two nations, taking the contest for regional dominance to even greater heights.
North Korea claims it now has the ability to strike the United States using its latest intermediate-range ballistic missile. That's according to the North's state-run newspaper, the Nodong Shinmun. The Workers' Party Daily says the Hwasong-12 missile tested in mid-May was fired at the highest angle and that it reached the maximum altitude of more than 2,100 kilometers before landing in the East Sea, some 790 kilometers away, meaning at a normal launch angle, it could reach America's military base in Guam. Many analysts agree the Hwasong-12 breakthrough is the first step towards developing an ICBM capable of striking the U.S. mainland. Experts also warn Pyongyang may have access to more advanced engines.
4 countries in the Middle East have severed their ties with Qatar, accusing the Gulf state of supporting terrorism. This announcement on Saudi Arabian TV was echoed by declarations from Egypt, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. It dramatically escalates a dispute over Qatar's support for the Muslim Brotherhood. It's also accused of backing Iran. 3 states have cut transport links with Qatar and given Qatari residents and visitors 2 weeks to leave their countries. In Cairo, Egypt's foreign minister met his Saudi counterpart on Sunday. Their countries, along with Bahrain, have blocked Al Jazeera websites amid a row over reports by Qatar's state-run media channel. It's an unprecedented breach between the most powerful members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Qatar, which is due to host the Football World Cup in 2022, has previously denied supporting terrorism or Iran.
The United States National Security Advisor is now saying that shifting dynamics in the Middle East are creating opportunities for a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. H.R. McMaster, addressing the American Jewish Committee's 2017 Global Forum, said the United States is witnessing a reassessment of regional relationships between Israel and a number of our Arab partners. According to McMaster, converging interests between Israel and Arab states are an opportunity. Shared opposition to Iran, for example, has led to cooperation between Israel and numerous Sunni countries, particularly Saudi Arabia. He says it's time for renewed pursuit of an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal. McMaster did not describe specific parameters for such a deal, nor did he mention Iran's nuclear program, focusing rather on its terrorist proxy network and ballistic missiles capability. Just today, though, essentially all the major Arab countries cut diplomatic relations with Qatar, an oil-rich Gulf country seen as close to Iran.
The stand is where I'm supposed to be, and you're supposed to be on the ground. So what are you doing up there? Hey, weird little bear, look at me in the eye. Okay? Behave. That's all I ask.
Look, weird little bear, we've had this talk before. Last week, you agreed that you would be on the ground and that I would be in the stand. This is the 3rd time this week that I've caught you in my stand. I told you that you don't need to be in my stand. What do you have to say for yourself? Oh, man.